to do is put our A and B together. This is the A and the B. And rather than mark the center with pins, I crease it. So I'm just putting a little crease there and find the center and crease the center of this. And we're going to start by doing 2 pins. Now I got to the point where I didn't need to do any pins. I just kind of worked it in, but we'll do 2 pins for you. And I kind of weave it in and out so that it doesn't slip. And then I do the last pin, the end. And I use very fine pins. I like a fine pin, not those big yellow-headed things. Okay? And I don't put a pin in the first because then you immediately have to take it out. But what I do is hold it with my fingers. See how I've matched up those little corners we cut off? I time myself. After I get warmed up, I timed myself, and it took me about 15 minutes to put an entire block together. But what we're going to do, and I do needle down so that if I stop, my needle is in position. And see, oh, the outie, there's an outie and an innie. The A is I call it an outie. One's convex and one's concave, but outie and innie might be a little easier to remember. So I put it on the bottom. You might want to try it both ways and see what's most comfortable for you, but for me, it's most comfortable to put the outie one, the outside curve, on the bottom, and try not to stretch it as you're sewing. Those are all bias edges, and this is not a race, so sew slowly. And once I get to the center, I can adjust the next half. And you can chain piece them and do one right after another. So pressing, you can press either direction. I tend to press out, and I don't take it to the iron. I either use my fingernail, or if you have a tool with a flat surface, you can press it with that. Or some of you, many of you probably have these rollers that you haven't ever used. Somebody told you to get it, but you could roll that. So I don't take anything to the iron until the block is completely put together. Okay, now we're going to add the C, which is the corner. So again, I'm going to crease it. And I lost my crease there, so I'll crease this again. And I'm going to match those up. Again, I'll pin the center. And the end. And this one I'm going to put my pin at a little bit of an angle to hold that in place. Okay. Okay, and notice I'm just kind of easing it in. The outie is still on the bottom. And you can see it's such a gentle curve. Once you get started, you really don't need those other pins, but they do give you a certain level of comfort, especially when you're starting. And again, I'm going to press out, and I tend to finger press, but you've got these other wonderful tools that you can use. Okay, now we're going to add the D. Remember, this is our straight grain. It's going to go on the outside. And I don't even pin this one. I just lay it on there. And I always sew from the outside to the center. And again, this is all bias. So, and once I've got it started, then I match these points. And I'm very careful to not stretch anything. One thing I forgot to mention, I do starch all my pieces before I cut into them, especially because I know there's going to be lots of bias. And this gives you a little bit more body and helps you control that bias if you've starched it in preparation. Okay, and then I press away. And you make 4 of those units. And then we sew 2 of them together and make 2 halves. Again, I want to sew from the outside to the center. Now we're used to, on some of our half square triangles, having things nest, but these are not a 45 degree. They're a little bit different angle. So really what we want to do is have them meet a 1/4 inch up. These points will not be nested. So just trust it. And at the end, you get to cover your center with a circle. So even if you don't have perfect matches at the centers, it's going to be covered up. Another reason to have a good circle on there. Okay, now I don't press to the piece. I kind of make a circle. So see, this one's going this way, this one's going this way, so I want this to go in that same direction. And I've got my half done. Now when I take the other half, see how it's kind of at a weird angle? So we can't really do that nesting thing. But when I put these together, I can peek in there and see where the center is. Let it do what it's going to do. It's not going to nest. I like using a forked pin to hold that together. And you have 2 options here. You can sew from the out to the center, across the center, and then sew from here over the center, or just try and go all the way across. See which way works best for you. But don't stretch it. Let your machine guide the fabric. Just make sure you're getting a good 1/4 inch. And I don't believe that I don't think in the pattern she really gave you any pressing directions. But now because everything's spinning, I pop this center open, and you can see it spins, and it just reduces the bulk. It's not real pretty, but it's much flatter. So I would finger press this down, finger press this down. Now I can take it to the iron and iron it, because we've got grain lines out here, and that came out pretty close, but I'll still cover it with circles because I think that makes it more attractive. Okay, when you're all done and you've pressed this, notice I've got a good 1/4 inch out here, and in the pattern it says it will be 9.5 inches. Mine were 9 1/4. It really doesn't matter as long as you're consistent.